The massive alien ship floated dead in space. Its sleek purple hull reflected no light except for the distant stars. Inside, the ship was quiet except for the soft beeping of backup systems and the nervous movements of the crew. Captain Clethax stood on the bridge of the stellar horizon, looking out at the endless black of space. His tall, thin body was covered in blue scales that now flashed with worry patterns. 3 days had passed since their ship stopped working. 3 days of trying everything they knew. 3 days of failure. "Captain, we need to talk," said Chief Engineer Zix Pulra as she entered the bridge. Her forearms hung low, showing her defeat. "I have tried all possible fixes in the manual. I have even tried things not in the manual." Kelthax turned to face her. "And? The quantum matrix has failed. The coolant system is leaking into places it should not go. The computer cannot even tell us what is wrong anymore." She shook her head, slowly. "In my 200 years as an engineer, I have never seen damage like this that could be fixed outside a proper shipyard." The other aliens on the bridge looked down at their control panels. None wanted to meet the captain's eyes. They all knew what this meant. "How long do we have?" Clothax asked. "Life support will fail in 18 Earth hours. After that..." She did not finish the sentence. She did not need to. Clothax nodded slowly. "Send out a distress call. Use all channels." First Officer Peltor stepped forward. He was from a species that looked like a tall insect with compound eyes that reflected the dim emergency lights. "Captain, there are no Confederation ships in this sector. The closest help would be..." "I know," Clothax said. "The humans." The bridge went silent. Everyone knew about humans. They were the newest species to join the Galactic Confederation. They had only developed space travel 60 years ago. Most aliens thought of them as primitive and simple, but they were also the only hope. "Send the call," Clothax ordered. 10 minutes later, they got a response. A human ship called the Rosie Parker had heard them. It was a mining vessel returning from the asteroid belt. The message said they would change course immediately and reach the stellar horizon in 2 hours. "They are miners, not engineers," Zix Pulra said with doubt in her voice. "What can they possibly do that 17 different species of trained engineers could not?" "We will be polite and thank them for trying," Clothax said. "That is all we can do now." 2 hours later, the human ship appeared. It was small and ugly compared to the elegant alien vessel. Its hull was patched in several places. It looked like someone had put it together from spare parts. The humans asked for permission to dock. Clothax granted it immediately. He gathered a small team to meet the humans, himself, Zix Pulra, and 3 security officers in case the humans tried to steal anything. They waited at the airlock as the 2 ships connected. The humans were late. The connection process took nearly an hour when it should have taken minutes. This confirmed Clothax's fear that the humans were not technically advanced enough to help. Finally, the airlock opened. 4 humans walked through. They wore simple blue work clothes with many pockets full of tools. They did not wear the formal uniforms Clothax expected. The lead human stepped forward. She was shorter than Clothax by at least 2 feet. Her skin was brown, and her black hair was tied back tightly. "Captain Diane Rodriguez of the mining vessel Rosie Parker," she said with a small bow. "We received your distress call." Clothax returned. The bow, much deeper as protocol required when greeting those of lower status. "Captain Clothax of the Confederation vessel Stellar Horizon. We thank you for your quick response, though I fear you have come only to witness our ship's final hours." The humans looked at each other. One of them, a tall man with light brown skin, stepped forward. "Alan Wilson, Chief Engineer," he said. "We looked at the diagnostic data you sent. Can you show us to your engine room?" Zix Pulra made a sound that humans might call a snort. "I have been trying to fix the quantum matrix for 3 days without success. The coolant system has completely failed, causing a cascade power failure. The entire system needs replacement, parts we do not have." The humans did not seem worried. In fact, one of them, a woman with short blonde hair, smiled. "Sounds like the time our coolant system blew on the Jupiter run. We'd love to take a look if you don't mind." Clothax was surprised but nodded. This way. He led them through the ship's corridors. The emergency lights cast everything in a dim, blue glow. When they reached the massive engine room, the humans immediately spread out. They didn't wait for permission or instructions. They just started looking at everything. The tall one, named Wilson, walked straight to the central control panel. Your system's different from ours, but the basics are the same. Lisa, check the coolant lines. Greg, look at the power distribution. Olivia, see if you can get into their computer system. The humans moved with purpose, pulling out strange tools from their pockets. One of them even crawled under a console, which made Zix-Pulra gasp in shock. No one treated Confederation technology so roughly. Excuse me, Zix-Pulra said, her voice rising. These are delicate systems that require proper diagnostic equipment and— Got it, called out the blonde woman named Lisa, who was looking behind a panel that Zix-Pulra had checked 10 times. There's your problem. The main coolant valve is stuck open and it's flooding the quantum regulator. Wilson came over to look. Yep, and I bet that caused the computer to shut everything down as a safety measure. He turned to Colthax. Captain, we can fix this. It's not as bad as it looks. Colthax and Zix-Pulra stared at the humans in disbelief. That is impossible, Zix-Pulra said. The quantum matrix cannot be repaired without proper parts and equipment. It would take days even in a shipyard. The fourth human, a woman with dark skin and curly hair pulled into a tight bun, laughed. We've got duct tape and determination. We'll have you running in 4 hours tops. 4 hours, Colthax repeated. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. Maybe less, Wilson said with a shrug. Depends on how your systems are connected. If you could show us your ship schematics, that would help. For the first time in 3 days, Colthax felt a small spark of hope. Maybe these strange humans could actually help. Maybe their primitive ways would see something that 17 species with thousands of years of combined engineering knowledge had missed. Show them whatever they need, he ordered Zix-Pulra. Give them full access. As the humans got to work, pulling out tools and talking to each other in short, quick sentences, Colthax wondered if his ship might survive after all. The humans moved through the engine room of the stellar horizon like they owned it. They pulled open panels, crawled into spaces, and touched parts that Zix-Pulra had always treated with careful respect. The alien engineer watched with her hands clasped tightly together to keep from stopping them. Your ship is beautiful, said Alan Wilson as he examined the quantum matrix. But whoever designed it never expected anyone to actually fix it. Lisa Johnson nodded as she traced a line of blue coolant with her finger. It's like a fancy watch. Pretty to look at, works great until it breaks, then you need a specialist. Colthax stood nearby, watching the humans work. Our ships are built by the finest engineers in the Confederation. They are perfect examples of advanced technology. Perfect is the enemy of practical, said Olivia Martinez. She had taken apart a control panel and was studying the glowing crystals inside. On Earth, we say if it can't be fixed, it shouldn't be flown. Greg Foster was on his back halfway under a console. His voice came out muffled. Found another problem. The backup system is completely fried. Looks like when the main system went down, this one tried to take over but couldn't handle the load. The aliens looked at each other with worry. The backup system was supposed to last for at least a month. If it was already damaged, they had even less time than they thought. Can you fix it? Colthax asked. Foster slid out from under the console with a grin. Already working on it, Captain, but I'll need some parts from our ship. Captain Rodriguez nodded. I'll call the Rosie and have them send over our emergency kit. She turned to Colthax. With your permission, of course. You have it, Colthax said quickly. At this point, he would agree to almost anything if it might save his ship and crew. While they waited for the parts, Wilson and Johnson worked on stopping the coolant leak. They had found tools in the engine room, but they also used strange items from their own pockets. One was a roll of silver material that Johnson called duct tape. What is this substance? Zix-Pulra asked, watching as Johnson wrapped it around. A leaking pipe. Basically, it's sticky fabric backed with metal, Johnson explained. It can fix almost anything temporarily. We never leave home without it. Zix-Pulra looked horrified. You are using temporary fixes on a quantum matrix? That is... Getting the job done, Wilson finished for her. Look, we know this isn't how you'd do it in a shipyard, but right now we need to get your system stable. Once everything is running again, you can replace our fixes with proper parts. Half an hour later, 2 more humans arrived from the Rosie Parker carrying large boxes. They introduced themselves as Jack Perry and Samantha Lee. They were younger than the others and seemed excited to be on an alien ship. "We brought everything you asked for," Perry said, opening one of the boxes. Inside were metal parts, tools, and containers of various liquids. And Sam had an idea about the computer system. Lee nodded eagerly. "If their quantum computer works anything like ours, we might be able to bypass the safety lockouts by—" She started explaining something complex, using words that even the translation devices struggled with. The aliens couldn't follow her logic, but Wilson nodded along. "That could work," he said when she finished. "Let's try it." The humans divided into teams. Wilson, Lee, and Martinez focused on the computer systems. Johnson, Foster, and Perry worked on the physical repairs. They moved with surprising speed and confidence. Zixpulra followed them around, asking questions and occasionally objecting to their methods. "That coupling is not designed to connect with that system," she said, as Foster attached something from their ship to the alien vessel. "It's not a perfect fit," Foster admitted. "But with some adjustments, it will work until you can get proper repairs." As the humans worked, more of the alien crew came to watch. They whispered among themselves, some impressed and others concerned by the humans' methods. The security officers that Kalthax had brought stayed close, still not entirely trusting the visitors. 2 hours after they had started, Wilson called everyone together near the main control panel. "All right, here's where we are," he said. "We've stopped the coolant leak and rigged up a temporary bypass system. We've also found a way into your computer's basic functions, so we can at least see what's happening now." He pointed to a display that was now showing information in both alien and human writing. "The good news is that the quantum matrix isn't permanently damaged. It shut down to protect itself. The bad news is that your safety systems won't let us restart it the normal way." "Then we are still lost," Klithax said, his scales turning a dull gray of disappointment. "Not exactly," Martinez said with a smile. "We have a plan. It's a bit unconventional." "Unconventional how?" Zixpulra asked, her voice sharp with suspicion. Lee stepped forward. "We need to trick your ship into thinking it's already at a shipyard. That will let us bypass the safety protocols that are preventing a restart." The alien stared at the humans in shock. "That is impossible," one of the other alien engineers said. "The ship's systems cannot be fooled. They have advanced AI that would detect any such attempt." "Under normal circumstances, yes," Wilson agreed. "But right now your ship is running on minimal power with damaged sensors. It can't tell where it is. We can use that to our advantage. It's like putting a blindfold on someone and spinning them around," Johnson explained. "They get disoriented and can't tell which way is up." Klithax looked at his chief engineer. "Zixpulra, is this possible?" The alien engineer's face showed her struggle. Everything she had learned in 2 centuries told her it shouldn't work. But after 3 days of failure, she was running out of objections. "I do not know," she admitted finally. "Their methods are not in any manual I have studied." "Sometimes the best solutions aren't in manuals," Rodriguez said gently. "They come from experience and necessity." Klithax made his decision. "Proceed with your plan." The humans went back to work with new energy. They connected devices from their ship to the alien computers. They rerouted power from the emergency systems. They even physically moved some components to create new connections. The aliens watched, half expecting their ship to explode at any moment. But nothing bad happened. Instead, lights that had been off for days started to come back on. "We're getting there," Wilson called out from the main console. "Martinez, how's the coolant system looking?" "Holding steady," she replied from across the room. "Ready when you are?" Wilson nodded and turned to Colthax. "Captain, we're ready to attempt a restart of your main systems. There's a small chance this could cause more problems, but honestly, your ship is already in trouble. This is your best shot." Kelthax looked around the engine room. His ship was the pride of the Confederation fleet. Now it was held together with human tape and makeshift parts, but it might work, and that was more hope than they had before. "Do it," he said. Wilson took a deep breath and pressed a sequence of controls. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the ship hummed. The hum grew louder. The lights in the engine room brightened. Screens that had been dark for days suddenly lit up with information. "It's working," Wilson said, his eyes moving quickly over the data. "The system is rebooting." The aliens stood, frozen, hardly daring to believe what they were seeing. Zixpulra moved slowly to a control panel, her 4 hands shaking slightly as she touched the screen. "The quantum matrix is online," she said, her voice quiet with shock. "Power levels are rising, but how is this possible?" Martinez smiled as she monitored another panel. "We basically convinced your ship that it was already fixed. The safety systems were preventing a restart because they detected damage. We created a bypass that made the computer think it was already repaired and in a safe restart mode." "You lied to the ship," one of the alien engineers said, sounding both impressed and scandalized. "We prefer to call it creative problem-solving," Johnson replied with a laugh. "Sometimes you have to work around the rules to get results." Colthax's scales were now flashing with bright patterns of excitement. "Will this solution last?" Wilson shook his head. "It's temporary. You'll need proper repairs when you reach a shipyard, but it should get you there safely." "How long will these repairs last?" Zixpulra asked, still checking readings on her screen. "At least 2 weeks, Foster said as he closed a panel he had been working on. "More than enough time to reach your nearest base if you don't push the engines too hard." The main lights suddenly came on throughout the ship. A soft chime sounded, and an automated voice spoke in the alien language. The translation devices the humans wore converted it to English. "Main power restored. Life support systems online. Estimated time to full functionality, 1 hour." A cheer went up from the alien crew. Some of them began touching foreheads together in what the humans guessed was their version of hugging or handshakes. Others simply stared at the humans with new respect in their eyes. "I must contact Confederation Command," Colthax said. "They should know that we are no longer in danger." He paused, looking at the human team. "And they should know who saved us." As the captain left to make his report, Zixpulra approached Wilson. "I must understand how you did this," she said. "In 200 years of engineering, I have never seen such methods." Wilson scratched his head. "It's not that complicated, really. We just looked at the problem differently." "Show me," Zixpulra insisted. Wilson nodded and led her to the main control station. "The first thing we noticed was that your diagnostic systems were part of the problem. They were stuck in a loop, constantly detecting the coolant leak, shutting down systems to prevent damage, then trying to restart, detecting the leak again, and shutting down again." "Yes, that is the safety protocol," Zixpulra agreed. "Right, but sometimes safety protocols can get in the way of actual safety," Martinez added as she joined them. "It's like if your leg is broken but you refuse to walk on it at all even to get to a doctor. Sometimes you have to risk a little damage to prevent a bigger problem." Zixpulra considered this. "So you bypass the safety systems entirely?" "Not entirely," Lee explained. She had been working on a tablet-like device recording their repairs. "We isolated the critical ones: life support, power distribution, navigation. We kept those protected, but we temporarily disabled the ones that were preventing us from fixing the main problems. It's like turning off the smoke alarm while you're cooking," Johnson said, trying to find a simple comparison. "You know there's going to be some smoke, but it doesn't mean the house is on fire." The alien engineer's eyes widened in understanding. "I see, but the quantum matrix alignment, that should have required specialized equipment." Foster grinned. "That's where the duct tape came in handy. We physically secured the matrix housing to prevent further misalignment, then used parts from our ship to create a calibration tool." "Your ship does not have quantum technology," Zixpulra said with confusion. "No, but we have vibration sensors that work on similar principles," Perry explained. "Mining operations require precise measurements to prevent cave-ins. We modified those sensors to detect the quantum fluctuations in your matrix. As they continued explaining their repairs, more of the alien crew gathered around to listen. What had started as emergency fixes was turning into an impromptu class on human engineering techniques. Captain Colthax returned an hour later. He found the engine room transformed. The humans and aliens were working side by side, with the humans, teaching the aliens how their temporary fixes worked, and how to maintain them until proper repairs could be made. Confederation Command has been informed of our situation, Colthax announced. They are sending a repair vessel to meet us, but it will take 5 days to reach our position. Until then, we must maintain these creative repairs. He looked directly at Captain Rodriguez. They expressed both relief at our survival and skepticism about the methods used. Rodriguez laughed. I bet they did. The Confederation doesn't seem big on improvisation. It is not our way, Colthax admitted. We prefer proven methods and established protocols. But today has been educational. Wilson looked up from where he was showing an alien engineer how to monitor the coolant system. Sometimes the best solutions come from necessity. Humans had to learn to be creative because we didn't have the resources or technology that you have. When something breaks on a mining ship 3 months from the nearest port, you either fix it with what you have or you don't make it home. Colthax nodded slowly. A valuable perspective, one that the Confederation might benefit from. He straightened himself to his full height, his scales now glowing with formal patterns. Captain Rodriguez, I would like to offer you and your crew payment for your assistance. Rodriguez shook her head. That's not necessary, Captain. We just did what anyone would do when they receive a distress call. Nevertheless, I insist, Colthax said. Not with money, but with knowledge. Our ship carries technical manuals and scientific data that might be useful to your people. I am authorized to share non-classified information as payment for services rendered. The humans looked at each other with excitement. Access to alien technical knowledge was rare and valuable. In that case, Rodriguez said with a smile, we accept with gratitude. And maybe while we're waiting for your repair ship, your engineers and ours could continue sharing ideas. I think we both have something to learn from each other. Indeed, Zixpulra said, her voice warm. Perhaps there is value in both our approaches, your creativity and our precision together. As if to emphasize her point, another system came, online, and the lights brightened to full power. The ship was healing thanks to human hands and alien technology working together. The next day, the stellar horizon moved slowly through space under its own power. The ship wasn't traveling at full speed. Wilson had advised against pushing the engines too hard, but it was moving, which was more than anyone, except the humans, had thought possible yesterday. In the ship's large meeting room, aliens and humans sat together around a circular table. Captain Colthax had invited the human repair team to stay until the Confederation repair ship arrived. Captain Rodriguez had agreed, sending the Rosie Parker on its way with most of her crew, while she and the repair team remained behind. Your ship can complete its mining delivery without you? Colthax asked Rodriguez. She nodded. My first officer can handle it. We're only carrying processed ore, so there's no rush, and this opportunity is too good to pass up. The opportunity she meant was the knowledge exchange that was now happening. On the table between them were several data tablets. The humans were getting access to basic Confederation technical information, while the aliens were learning about human repair techniques. This approach would never have occurred to us, Zixpulra said as she reviewed notes Lee had made about their repair process. You deliberately ignored safety protocols that have been standard for 500 years. Not ignored, Martinez corrected gently. We worked around them. Sometimes you have to think outside the box. Outside the box? One of the alien engineers repeated, the translation device struggling with the idiom. It means thinking beyond your usual rules and patterns, Foster explained, looking for solutions in unexpected places. Another alien, a young engineer named Trelvor, had been quiet until now. But is it not dangerous to ignore established procedures? They exist for a reason. Wilson considered this. Sure, procedures exist for a reason, but they were written by people or aliens who couldn't predict every situation. Sometimes you need to understand the principles behind the rules, not just follow the rules themselves. Like how we understand that the safety protocols were designed to prevent damage, Johnson added. But in your case, following them would have led to everyone on the ship dying when life support failed. Sometimes the bigger picture matters more than the exact rules. The aliens looked uncomfortable with this idea, but they couldn't argue with the results. Their ship was working again, when they had all believed it was doomed. I would like to learn more about this practical approach, Trelver said finally. It seems valuable, even if uncomfortable. That's the spirit, Rodriguez said with a smile. And we want to learn about your technology too. Fair exchange. For the rest of the day, humans and aliens worked together throughout the ship. The humans showed the aliens how to maintain their temporary repairs, while the aliens explained how their advanced systems were supposed to work under normal conditions. In the engine room, Wilson and Zix Pulra stood side by side watching a diagnostic screen. The quantum matrix was holding steady, its energy patterns flowing in complex but stable waves. I still do not understand how you knew this would work, Zix Pulra admitted. Nothing in our engineering manuals suggested it was possible. Wilson laughed. That's the problem with manuals. They tell you the right way to do things, but not all the wrong ways that might work in an emergency. He paused, looking at the beautiful, complex engine. Your technology is amazing, far more advanced than ours. But there's a difference between knowing how something works and knowing how to make it work when it's broken. And humans are good at the second part, Zix Pulra said. It wasn't a question. We've had to be. Space is dangerous. Resources are limited. We learned early that being able to improvise matters as much as having the right equipment. On the bridge, Rodriguez sat with Captain Kulthax, reviewing star charts and trade routes. The human captain pointed to a section of space near the edge of Confederation territory. This region here, we've had reports of unusual radiation patterns. Our ships have been avoiding it, but no one's really studied it properly. Do your people know anything about it? Kulthax touched the screen, zooming in on the area. Yes, this is a known phenomenon. A neutron star with unusual properties. I can provide you with the scientific data we have collected. That would be helpful, Rodriguez said. Might save some of our ships from trouble. Kulthax's scales flickered with a pattern that the translation device interpreted as thoughtfulness. It occurs to me that this exchange of information benefits both our peoples. Your practical knowledge helps us maintain our ships in emergencies. Our scientific data helps you navigate dangerous regions of space. That's how cooperation is supposed to work, Rodriguez agreed. Everyone brings something valuable to the table. In the crew dining area, Foster and Martinez sat with several alien crew members sharing a meal. The food was strange to the humans, glowing blue cubes and green strips that tasted like sweet potatoes, but not unpleasant. So you've never had ice cream? Martinez asked, looking shocked when the aliens shook their heads. What is this, ice cream? Asked a blue-skinned alien with 4 eyes. Only the best food humans ever invented, Foster said with a laugh. Frozen cream and sugar. It comes in hundreds of flavors. Can you make some? Another alien asked, suddenly interested. Foster and Martinez looked at each other. We'd need milk, sugar, vanilla? Actually, we might be able to improvise something, Martinez said thoughtfully. Not real ice cream, but close enough. If your food synthesizer can create similar ingredients, there you go again, one alien said, making a sound like laughter. Improvising when you do not have the right materials. It's what we do, Foster said with a shrug. That evening, the ship's communication system picked up a message from Confederation headquarters. Kulthax called everyone to the bridge to hear it. Attention, Stellar Horizon, said a stern alien voice as a hologram appeared in the center of the bridge. It showed an older Vosarian with elaborate scale patterns that indicated high rank. We have received your report about the human repair methods. While we are pleased that your ship is functional, we must express concern about these unauthorized modifications. The aliens on the bridge looked uncomfortable. The humans exchanged glances, but stayed quiet. However, the hologram continued. Given the emergency nature of the situation and the apparently successful results, we have decided to send a technical team to study these repairs before removing them. If there is practical value in these methods, the Confederation Technical Board wishes to document them properly. Kilthax's scales flashed with surprise. The Technical Board rarely showed interest in non-Confederation technology. Furthermore, the hologram said, we wish to extend an invitation to the human repair team. Upon completion of this mission, they are invited to visit Confederation Central Station to present their repair techniques to our engineering division. When the message ended, the bridge was silent for a moment. Then Rodriguez turned to Kilthax with a wide smile. Well, Captain, she said, it looks like your people might be interested in thinking outside the box after all. 3 days later, the Confederation repair ship arrived. It was larger than the stellar horizon and much more impressive than the human mining vessel had been. Its sleek hull gleamed like polished metal, and it moved with perfect precision as it came alongside the damaged ship. Captain Kilthax, Zix Pulra, and the human team stood in the docking bay as the airlock opened. A group of aliens in formal uniforms entered. Their leader was a tall, thin Vosarian with elaborate scale patterns that marked him as a high-ranking official. Chief Inspector Vexatora, Kilthax said, bowing deeply. Welcome to the stellar horizon. The inspector returned the bow, though not as deeply. His eyes moved over the humans with clear curiosity. Captain Kilthax, I have read your reports, but I must admit I found them difficult to believe. He turned to the humans. These are the engineers who repaired a quantum matrix with tape. Captain Rodriguez stepped forward. Not exactly, Inspector. We used a combination of methods. The tape was just one small part of it. Vexatora made a gesture that the translation device interpreted as skepticism. Nevertheless, I find it hard to understand how your species, with barely 60 years of space travel experience, managed to repair systems that our engineers with thousands of years of knowledge could not. Perhaps I can explain, Wilson said. If you'd like to see the repairs for yourself? The inspector nodded, and the group made their way to the engine room. As they walked, Zixapulra surprised everyone by defending the human methods. I was also skeptical, Inspector, she said, but I have spent 3 days studying their techniques. There is genuine innovation in their approach. They understand the principles behind our technology even if they do not have the technology itself. In the engine room, the inspector and his team moved slowly around, examining the repairs. They stopped frequently, taking readings and making notes on their devices. Their expressions showed a mix of shock, disapproval, and reluctant admiration. This connection here, one of the inspector's engineers said, pointing to where Foster had attached a human device to the alien system. It should not work. The materials are not compatible. But it does work, Foster pointed out. We created an interface layer using materials from both ships. It's not pretty, but it's stable. The inspection continued for hours. The Confederation engineers questioned every decision, every repair, every improvisation. The humans explained, patiently, sometimes demonstrating their techniques on other systems. Finally, the inspection team gathered to discuss their findings privately. When they returned, Vexatora's scale patterns had changed to show something the translator called reluctant respect. Your repairs are unorthodox and against all standard protocols, he said to the humans. But they are also effective. More importantly, they have kept this ship and its crew alive when they would otherwise have been lost. He turned to Captain Kilthax. Confederation Command has reviewed your logs and the preliminary report from my team. They have decided that the invitation to these humans stands. In fact, they wish to expand it to include a formal knowledge exchange program. Rodriguez and her team looked at each other with surprise and excitement. What kind of knowledge exchange? She asked. Confederation engineers would study your repair techniques and practical approaches. In return, you would receive access to some of our technical data and training. Vextora paused, his scales showing a pattern that indicated he was choosing his words carefully. It seems that despite our advanced technology, we may have become inflexible in our thinking. Wilson smiled. We'd be honored to participate. Inspector, I think both sides would benefit. Indeed, Vexatora agreed. My team will complete proper repairs to the stellar horizon over the next 2 days. After that, if you are willing, you will accompany us to Confederation Central Station to begin the exchange program. Later that evening, the humans gathered in the guest quarters they had been assigned. They sat in a circle drinking a sweet blue liquid that the aliens had assured them was safe for humans. Can you believe this? Martinez said, her eyes bright with excitement. We came to help a ship in distress, and now we're going to the heart of alien space to teach them our methods and learn theirs, Lee added. The technical data they've offered would advance Earth's space program by decades. Wilson leaned back in his chair looking thoughtful. You know what I find most interesting? It's not that we fix their ship. It's that they're willing to learn from us at all. What do you mean? Foster asked. Think about it. They've had space, travel for thousands of years. They have technology we can barely understand, but they've gotten so used to doing things the right way that they've forgotten how to improvise, how to think on their feet. Rodriguez nodded. It reminds me of something my grandfather used to say. He was a mechanic in the early days of space. Flight. He said that the best engineers aren't the ones who never make mistakes, they're the ones who can fix anything that breaks. Exactly, Wilson agreed. And that's what humanity brings to the table. We're not the most advanced, the strongest, or the smartest species out there, but we're flexible, we adapt, we find solutions where others see only problems. A soft chime sounded, and the door to their quarters slid open. Captain Colthax stood there, his scales glowing with formal patterns. I hope I am not interrupting, he said. Not at all, Captain, Rodriguez replied, gesturing for him to enter. We were just discussing the knowledge exchange. Colthax moved into the room, looking slightly uncomfortable but determined. I wish to speak with you privately before the official proceedings begin, to express my personal gratitude. There's no need, Wilson started, but Colthax raised a hand to stop him. There is a need. My ship and crew would have been lost without your help. But more than that, you have given us something we did not know we were missing. His scales shifted to a softer pattern. For too long, the Confederation has believed that advancement only comes from careful research and perfect implementation. You have shown us that there is value in, what did you call it? Thinking outside the box. That's a very human trait, Martinez said with a smile. Finding new ways to solve old problems. It is a trait the galaxy needs, Colthax said seriously. The Confederation has many worlds, many species, much knowledge, but we have grown comfortable, perhaps too comfortable. He looked around at the humans, his alien eyes showing an emotion that needed no translation. You fixed our ship before lunch, as your saying goes, but you may have also helped us fix something we did not know was broken. Our perspective, as the humans raised their glasses in a toast to new friendships and new beginnings. The stellar horizon continued its journey through space, carried forward by the combined strength of advanced alien technology and simple human ingenuity. A partnership that promised to change the galaxy.